Hello, Internet. Hello, Twitch. Hello, everybody out there in the galaxy. My name is Mr. Benja, and we are here with the Pod Squadron. I'm saying it like I'm not a part of the Pod Squadron. We are the Pod Squadron, and we're here to bring you some Star Wars entertainment, responses, recaps. We're talking about books, merchandise, everything in the Star Wars universe, and we want to have a good, fun time with it and with you. So, first of all, let's get some quick introductions out of the way. First of all, we have Andy Lowe, the Chinese pirate.
Hi there, my name's Andy Lowe. I'm a director, fight choreographer, performer, puppeteer, and the Chinese pirate.
Yes, and also we have the hot nerd girl, Tracy Deering. How are you doing?
That's right. Hi, everybody. I'm Tracy Deering, the hot nerd girl. And as always, I'm happy to be here to discuss The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda.
Awesome. And my name is Mr. Benja. I'm from the 8-Bit Cubist. You may know me from the art world and doing weird 8-bit things like this behind me. But I am not the exciting attraction today. We have a new guest showing up with us. That is our friend Lexi over here, Lexi Lee. Quick little introduction of yourself.
Hey, everybody. My name is Lexi. I work in theater and festivals, or at least I used to pre-COVID. Now I'm still trying to figure out what all that means for me. I've been kind of a closet geek for most of my life. This is my first foray into like professional geekdom. Yay! Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. I didn't know this was.
Oh,
did we lose
lost Benja.
Your closet geekdom with us.
Yeah, it is. Everything else has just been kind of. I'll show up somewhere and people will be like, I did not peg you for the type of 30-year-old to have a Star Wars backpack. And I'm like, hey.
So, Lexi, where did your Star Wars relationship begin? Like, when did you first get into it?
When I was a little tomboy and people would call me a princess because I had pretty long hair, and I would get really mad at them because princesses were not tough enough for me. And then finally someone said, oh, so then you're Princess Leia. And people started comparing me to Princess Leia, and I found out that she had blasters and kept a cool head. And then the more I dived into Star Wars over the years, the more I just kept finding really badass ladies. And it just picked up steam from there.
Tracy, you seem very amused at that.
About what, being compared to Princess Leia because she's a badass?
Oh, I don't know. You're just over there smiling and wanting to giggle, and so.
Well, first of all, I'm enjoying meeting Lexi, and I'm so happy to have you here. And more female energy on the show. I love it. But also, I'm thinking about how princesses have really gone from being the damsels in distress to being badasses pretty much. Like all the new princesses have been badasses, but we just had Princess Leia for a long time. And it wasn't until really the prequels that we had other badass women that joined the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, absolutely. And just really fun discovering all of them through the different animated series as well, you know?
So do you have go ahead.
Yeah, so I got a question, Leslie. You said that you really hadn't made any big forays into the geek Star Wars world or whatever. But where has it been all this time since you? I mean, did you always just kind of say, "Well, I like these princesses, I like Star Wars, is all cool, but I'll just keep it to myself"? How did that happen?
Less about that and more that just the events that I've ended up working on have been less geek centric, I think. Mostly because I'm an anxious soul who doesn't like being caught inside, and a lot of cons like put you inside. And so when people ask if I want to be stuck indoors with a huge crowd of people or stuck outdoors, I'm like, outdoors, thanks. And those are usually music festivals. So as I've mentioned to you guys when we chatted earlier in the week, I've met all kinds of friends at festivals because of the different Star Wars gear, either carrying my backpack or running across people who are also hippies out there having fun and will have like a Rebel insignia pin or something. And I'm like, hey, and we usually have a good conversation. So closet's not the right word. No, just like
nerd bounding.
Yeah.
Intersectional geek.
That's a good rebounding. Yeah.
So, would you say you have a favorite Star Wars character or storyline or episode or movie?
My toss-up favorites, it goes neck and neck between Ahsoka and Asajj Ventress. And really hoping we get to see more of Ahsoka, or they'll do something with her that's not totally animated. For that. Really anything with the tough Star Wars lady, I'm kind of a sucker for, or Star Wars creatures. I think I mentioned really liking Owen McGregor's Varactyl, one of the prequel trilogies. So, yeah.
See, and that's the thing I gotta, throw a little respect here in that, you didn't think of yourself as a geek, you didn't think yourself as part of geek culture, but you just called it Varactyl. That's some like high-end knowledge there. Like, I don't even remember the word Varactyl. So.
She was a geek. She was just on the down low.
Right.
It's less like I have a geek flag and more like I have like a tattoo, like a geek tattoo that like people see when I take off my jacket, and they're like, "What's that on your shoulder?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, this thing." Yeah.
And then you're kindred spirits all of a sudden, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's
finding communities and.
So we're all getting together here around a very interesting time in Star Wars, and we've talked about this before, Lexi, but this is I want to actually say the Mandalorian and everything that's going on right now is a new jumping off point for Star Wars. And it's kind of why we got this group together, why we started the podcast, and why we, started streaming. So, I think Star Wars is in a good place right now. And just really in general, how are you guys feeling about where Star Wars is and what's coming up?
Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll just make a quick mention that I'm keeping an eye on the chat on Twitch. So if anybody wants to interact, by all means, throw a message in there. And I guess since I'm talking now, I will continue. I think with the hi Jason. I think that was Jason Bieber. I think that I think that with these live action series on Disney Plus, Andy, that when Disney Plus first came out, I was rather critical of it because it was yet another streaming service. And I also bitched when CBS All Access came out because it was yet another streaming service. But I think that Disney is being really smart about having these live action series and incorporating all these characters from all these different aspects of Star Wars. And Lexi, you're going to get your wish with Ahsoka Tano, it looks like, and probably not next episode, maybe the episode after that. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, but I think, bringing in all these characters, all these fan favorites, because for a long time, you had people who didn't like the prequels, but they were okay with the animated series. And so, like drawing it all together, I think they're making it really cohesive and making it a high quality that anybody can love. And spin-offs.
Yeah, I'll yes and that. The really exciting thing as a Star Wars fan is to start to actually see what happens when you have the what are they called, the Star Wars not the think tank, what are they called, the
story group.
The story group, thank you. The story group. Pablo Hidalgo and Dave Filoni all kind of talking to each other, because suddenly we're starting to see characters from animation show up in films. We're seeing characters from novels showing up in TV series. We're actually starting to really have this kind of unified storytelling and world building that expands beyond any single medium. And that just makes for greater world building and more in-depth story and mythology, which is my, big thing, right? Is just that it is truly becoming a mythology, not just a story, not just a blockbuster.
It's like they're taking a page from their Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty amazing that they're doing all this. I can't think of any other franchise from brand storyline that's lasted and been built up this large for this long. I heard somebody online saying, that worked at Disney, saying that they expect to be born into the Star Wars universe and they'll die before it ends. So that was just an incredible thought to me, that we have this franchise and brand going on this long. So that's that's kind of the state of things right now. I don't know. Did anybody else have anything to say on that?
I think Mandalorian is kind of the best of all worlds in terms of Star Wars content, that because of what everybody kind of mentioned. It pulls from all of the types of media. Doesn't exclusively pull from the films. It's a little bit of something for everybody. And when you have a world that is not just a world, but it's literally an entire galaxy, it only serves to bring it to life better when you include something for everybody. It's not just about, catering to different audiences. It's not just about appealing to certain groups. It really does the world a disservice, does the universe a disservice if they don't dive into it as they have been. And I think it's really lovely to kind of be in a place and time to see that evolve.
Totally.
So we've got Caponis here on Twitch saying it's not just blanket fan service either. These things really matter. I think also, I know that when Disney purchased Star Wars, they kind of threw out Legends as being any kind of canon, right? Mm-hmm. But it seems like they are pulling in little bits of Legends as well, as from what I'm noticing. So I like that they're not completely ignoring.
Yeah, it's
Legends.
Absolutely a source for them, right? I mean, that they can filter out things that were a little crazier, and focus in on things that were very good ideas. And also, I just want to call out, Tracy. You and I also, you can love all Star franchises, because calling out that yes, also Star Trek does have an incredible mythology, but we won't get into that here. I will give also a little shout out, if you haven't followed already, look for Trek Table, which is one of our sister shows that's going to be launching soon. That's going to be focused completely on Star Trek and Star Trek Discovery. So that's a little plug for them, and a little bit of love.
I'm excited for that one.
So speaking of plugging things, you made it this far. Just a quick reminder to make sure you subscribe and follow. We're on YouTube, and we'll be letting you know what's going on with our Twitch streaming. You can always check those guys out at online. If you're following us on Facebook, you should have gotten the announcement on where we're streaming from on Twitch. And speaking of all the big overworld kind of things that are going on, one thing that's happening right now with The Mandalorian is that we're bringing up a lot of history of Mandalore. So what we're going to do in the next, for the rest of this show, basically, is we're going to go over a little history of Mandalore and that whole reason that The Mandalorian is a thing, as opposed to that Boba Fett guy. We'll get into a bit of that, little bit of history, so you know why people are flipping out online. And then we're going to get into our response recap of Season 2, Episode 3. And we'll go through the bits of that, and we'll let you know when the spoilers are coming, so don't worry about that. And with that, let's see. Why are Mandalorians important? We're going to have a good little discussion here on that. Andy, can you take us up?
Sure. So the idea here is that we're going to forego the news this week and just to dig in deep on the history of the Mandalorians, because there's actually been quite a bit written about the Mandalorians. But if you've only watched the movies and television, you might not have seen a lot of that. So we're going to dive into some of the established story that has been established in some of the games, some of the Clone Wars episodes, as well as Rebels. So if you haven't watched any of that, there will be some minor spoilers, but really just to kind of get you caught up of what are the seeds that we're seeing in the Mandalorian show now. And we will also provide for you a watch list that was assembled for us by Jason Bieber, our good friend of the cast, who basically distilled it down to what are the most important episodes, so you can watch it yourself if you want to catch up in the week ahead before we get to episode 4. So
He wants us to fight about whether or not Boba's a Mandalorian, by the way. He's saying fight, fight, fight.
we'll get to that. So the Mandalorians. So the Mandalorians are a group of humanoid people who basically started off on a planet, and they are a very warlike race. I mean, some people say that if you were to compare Star Trek and Star Wars, they are like the Klingons of the Star Wars universe. The interesting thing about them is that they are not actually a race of alien or beast. There are a lot of human Mandalorians, but it's really more a philosophy and an idea of this warlike culture and greatest warriors. It's very, very, the strongest will survive. The weakest will weed themselves out. It's a very, very evolutionist philosophy and culture. So that's kind of the base of the culture, right? The development of the Mandalorian armor that we all know kind of developed as they came into the crosshairs of the Jedi. Now, does anyone know kind of how the Mandalorian armor developed as a result of the Jedi?
Well, with the cloning and the clone army, and using the armor, Boba Fett and Jango Fett's armor as kind of a template.
Well, this is actually kind of more prehistory. So this is pre-Clone Wars.
Okay, right? Pre-Clone Wars. Sorry.
That's okay. So the trick is that as the Mandalorians became more present in the galaxy, they just became a dominant force and started conquering world after world after world. And the Jedi had to intervene. Suddenly, the Mandalorians are like, you know what? These guys can, push me from like 20 feet away. They can control minds. They have these lightsabers, and they can deflect blaster fire. We got to come up with stuff. So, the idea of the Beskar armor, the Beskar deflects blaster fire, much like the lightsabers can deflect blaster fire. Jedi can use the Force to pull things closer to them or repel things, and so they developed flamethrowers to repel and grappling hooks to do approximate force pull. They had integrated jetpacks to kind of approximate force jump, and suddenly you have a non-force powered group army that can stand toe-to-toe with Jedi, and they became a huge presence throughout the galaxy.
Basically intergalactic Spartans with armor specifically designed for fighting the top warriors of the time.
Now, do you guys...
Beskar a native ore to Mandalore?
That is correct.
But not all Mandalorians are from, like Boba and Jango, aren't they from, is it Crimson Dawn?
Concord Dawn, I think.
Concord Dawn. I'm mixing the planet with the underworld organization, criminal organization.
So that is one of the worlds that was conquered by the Mandalorians in the prehistory time. Now, does anyone know who Pre Vizsla is?
Oh, Pre Vizsla.
Yes.
Well, please take it away.
Well, he's an ancestor of Tar Vizsla, who was the Mandalorian who was actually accepted into the Jedi Order and who created the Darksaber.
Right. So Tar Vizsla was the first Mandalorian to become a Jedi, right? And he created the Darksaber, as you mentioned, and he was the first Mandalore to unite the Mandalorian people, because there was a lot of warring factions, and so he was kind of one of the first people to bring peace to the Mandalorian people.
And this is 1,000 years before.
Right.
Sorry,
this
what?
is like
1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, right?
Right. Like, I don't know the exact time. Lexi, were you going to say?
Wasn't he ultimately responsible for the Death Watch, I believe?
So
Pre
Vizsla was. So his ancestor was. Tar Vizsla, basically united the Mandalorian people. But after he died, what happened was other Mandalorians snuck into the Jedi Temple and stole the Darksaber in order to unite the Mandalorian people and basically use the Darksaber to lead the Mandalorian people into wars back against the Jedi and across the galaxy.
Caliber stuff.
So a quick note with the Darksaber, and you can catch more of this on Rebels, but we'll get to that also. If you saw the ending of Mandalorian season 1 and you were wondering why people were flipping out when the Darksaber pierced through the TIE fighter there, that's why they were flipping out, because that mere announcement or mere showcase of that sword, the Darksaber, just totally reframed everything that the Mandalorian was going through, that this guy's looking for the child and he's got the Darksaber and he's connected all this back history. So that's leading us into this next season also. And just want to make sure that we understand the importance of that saber.
Well, because that's also how what led to a lot of Mandalorian civil wars, because once that became the MacGuffin that would unite the Mandalorian people, various people would. That's like Game of Thrones, Star Wars, right there is people fighting over the Darksaber. And caught in the middle of that civil war was a young Satine Kryze, who was under the protection of a very young Obi-Wan Kenobi. You guys know that bit?
Yeah, poor Obi.
So Obi-Wan,
she's the Duchess, right, of Mandalore.
So yeah, so she was destined to be the Duchess of Mandalore. At that time, she was very young and learning all of the horrors of war and what war was doing to basically destroy their planet. And Obi-Wan, a young Jedi, along with Qui-Gon, were sent to protect her because she would be the next ruler of Mandalore, and was taking a pacifist route. So there is I don't think they've gotten deep into that story, but yes, there's a torrid affair, shall we say?
Which is ironic because her sister joined up with
the really militant
previous
stuff.
Right.
Yes.
Which he formed the. How deep are we going right now?
I think
he formed the Death Watch.
So explain.
Right.
So explain to us what Death Watch is.
Well, so the Death Watch, and Lexi, correct me if I'm wrong, because the animated series are definitely more your strong point. But the Death Watch was a group of Mandalorians who didn't appreciate the more pacifist direction that the Duchess was taking, and they were okay. So at some point, the Mandalorians were exiled to a moon, right? And he was kind of ruling this sect from that moon, and that's where we get like Din Djarin and that the whole. Oh, see, am I spoiling things? I don't know if I'm spoiling things.
I think you jumped a little ahead. So
I did jump ahead.
So Pre Vizsla is the one who created Death Watch. So he is a descendant of Tar Vizsla. Yeah. He gets his hand on the Darksaber and says, with this, I'm going to retake Mandalore. I'm going to kick out these wimpy, stupid, Say again?
Using the Darksaber as kind of an Excalibur type of thing to pull support away from Satine as a pacifist and give himself legitimacy. And then, if I remember correctly, did they not end up joining up with Darth Maul?
So a couple of things happen. So he gets the Darksaber and duels with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And when Obi-Wan Kenobi defeats him, that's when they actually get exiled off of Mandalore. After that exile, basically, Pre Vizsla, by the way, actually, who was voiced by Jon Favreau, and so really, like, this whole story arc in Clone Wars is probably kind of like the origin point for this Mandalorian series, as Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau were talking through all of this.
So, what's an interesting point about the timing of all this? If you're just listening to the lore and you haven't done this deep dive into it, what's interesting about the timing is this is around the time when the Empire is making its moves to get rid of the Republic, basically. So in all these different factions and people, fighting over this and fighting over that, we see a microcosm of this whole battle going on with, Kenobi basically kind of representing the Jedi and the pacifist side, and then, the guys who don't want the pacifism, what became known as the Dark Watch, Death Watch, I'm sorry, getting on the other side, exiled to a moon. You start to have good and bad guys coming into play. Then the Empire runs in there and starts to just, I don't want to say take over, but, infiltrate. That's the word I was looking for, infiltrate. They started to infiltrate basically what was going on there. Beskar became very important to the Empire. They wanted a lot of it, the metals, and they wanted to strip the planet of all its resources. So that's how they ended up getting involved in it. So this is all tying into where we are with the Mandalorian. So
that gets us to Bo-Katan, right? Bo-Katan, who was recruited by Pre Vizsla, became one of his members, and then in his effort to take over Mandalore, he was betrayed and killed by an outside party, and ultimately that led Bo-Katan to have to basically splinter Death Watch out. So Bo-Katan, who is the sister, God, this is so messy. Bo-Katan is the sister of Satine, Duchess Satine. So this outside party, who we will leave unmentioned for now, just for spoiler effect, basically not only betrayed Pre Vizsla, but also killed Duchess Satine. And upon seeing her sister killed and seeing kind of the evil ways of war and Death Watch, Bo-Katan took her splinter group and formed a group called the Night Owls. And
Which I feel like is loosely based on the Night Witches.
You want to explain the Night Witches?
So the Night Owls is an all-female group of Mandalorians, right?
Correct.
And the Night Witches were a group of female pilots, Soviet female pilots during World War II, who the Germans nicknamed the Night Witches because they were so stealthy. So anyway.
So the Night Owls actually become really important in season 7. If you did watch the final season of Clone Wars, which released at the beginning of this year, we saw Ahsoka Tano having a great battle on Mandalore. That's what this battle was about. Was Bo-Katan, the character voiced by Katie Sackhoff, trying to avenge her sister's death and retake her home world with the help of Ahsoka Tano, and. So takes us through everything that happened in the Clone Wars. And we do end up seeing Bo-Katan again during the Rebels series as well.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tracy.
Does anybody else find it really amusing that Obi-Wan is played by Ewan McGregor, and both of the Satines that he's fallen in love with, both in Moulin Rouge and in Star Wars, have died?
Oh, that's intentional.
Yeah, totally.
So let's see. What should we call her?
So what's interesting here is you're seeing all these connections from the prequels and some remnants of that in the other stories that were chronologically past the prequels. And we have a comment from Ring Capacity here. I want to jump in and say, I love this show. I love how this show completely holds up for someone like me who knows nothing of the backstory. This is some damn fine writing when it works for the initiated as well as those with encyclopedic knowledge. And he also asked another question. All this is from the cartoons? ? Most of what we were saying can be kind of summed up in what we were watching in Clone Wars and Rebels, which are both on Disney Plus. You can, we're going to have a catch-up list that you can kind of catch the essential episodes you need to see. So we're going to put that out. Watch the Facebook page or something for that.
Before we move on, so the one last important thing. So we didn't really get to Rebels yet, but one important thing about Bo-Katan during Rebels. Lexi, do you want to kind of jump into that?
I'm not sure I got enough on which part you're referring to. Besides,
Where we last see Bo-Katan.
oh, in Rebels specifically. Well, I mean, we just kind of. Sorry, I'm trying to think about what I can say that we didn't already.
She is in possession of.
Oh, sorry. I thought we'd already. Yeah, it basically in Rebels there's a two-parter called, I think it's in the last season, and it's a two-parter called Heroes of Mandalore, and it does involve Sabine, who another badass girl favorite, and she's an artist. God love her. One of my favorite little Easter eggs about that episode is when one of the episodes she finally frees her dad, and they start having a debate about the art that she's put on her armor. They start having they even go into a little lore thing where they start talking about art history on Mandalore, which is cool. Side note, but yeah, it ends up with Satine trying to give the Darksaber to Bo-Katan twice. She tries to give it to her the first time, and the first time Bo-Katan's like, I don't deserve this. She doesn't feel like she has, done right by her sister.
Yeah.
She doesn't think she's putting her legacy in the right direction. She doesn't think she deserves it yet. And then at the very end, we do see her with the Darksaber.
And so that's the most important thing, is that the last time we saw the Darksaber, it was in the hands of Bo-Katan to reunite her people, the Mandalorians, to free Mandalore from Imperial rule. And that's the last we heard of them. I mean, that's basically in Rebels, is I think takes you, it's about 5 years. No, it's right before the original Star Wars Episode 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sounds about right. Go ahead, Tracy. Jump in quickly.
Okay, so before we move on, because I think this is Paul. He's saying that he's so lost right now. So if we could do a really quick, if we could just a really super quick 30-second summary. We've got a guy who is the first Mandalorian to become a Jedi. He creates the Darksaber, and then Tar Vizsla. There's tons of civil wars, but he's able to unite all of Mandalore with the Darksaber.
He's a Jedi.
Right, but so then this is 1,000 years ago, and then his ancestor splits apart from most of Mandalore and is banished to a moon called Concordia, and then so the Duchess rules most of the Mandalorians, and then this guy creates. Pacifist. Yes, she's a pacifist, and then Pre Vizsla, he creates a group called the Death Watch, and that's where they don't want to be pacifists, and that's where we get Din Djarin. They're the ones who rescued Din Djarin.
No, that's later. But Bo-Katan.
Well, yeah. I'm just giving the 30-second thing because he says he's lost.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the Duchess Satine, who's ruling most of the Mandalorians, her sister is Bo-Katan, who shows up in this episode. So we were just trying to give a little bit of historical context before we deep dive into this episode. And her sister being the Duchess, that's why this episode is called The Heiress, right? Because she's the heir to her sister's throne. Does that make sense, Paul? You're welcome.
In the Mandalorian Civil War, Bo-Katan switched.
Yes, Bo-Katan switched sides. She went from the Death Watch to forming her own group called the Night Owls.
Basically, she's just been all about Mandalorian independence and preservation of tradition, and the reason she was opposed to her sister is because she saw her sister as betraying their culture, and then she realized it was her sister's best attempt at keeping them all together and not destroying the planet, realized who she'd gotten politically in bed with and is trying to right those wrongs. And that's where we see her starting to try that in the newest episode of Mandalorian, and then ultimately hopefully succeeding in Rebels.
And like I said, we will leave you a watch list where you can follow the story in a way better told than we did.
I think this is Josh, ring capacity. He's like, impressive summary with perfect backup. Thank you, Andy and Lexi. And he's like, it's not complicated at all.
Yeah.
It's just...
there was a bunch of civil war. A sword showed up, and they stopped fighting. Then they lost the sword, and everybody's lost and scattered across the universe. Now we're seeing people who were important to the Civil War showing back up in the show. All right. So now, speaking of the show,
The
the internet was lighting up over Bo-Katan. And I gotta ask: is it Bo-Katan or Bo-Katan? I've heard people say both things.
I always say Catan, but I don't know if I'm
Catan.
right.
Catan?
Tomato.
I say Catan.
Oh,
Either way,
Jason's saying a hard A. Catan,
Hard A.
right?
Tan. I was saying 10. So yeah, it sounds like something to me that, when you're getting your friends together and you're deciding what to eat, it's like, should we go for hot pot, shabu shabu, sushi? No one can decide. And then someone says, how about Bo-Katan? It's like, yeah, Bo-Katan sounds great. And Bo-Katan is great. So that's why the internet was kind of like excited about this person that everybody's wondering about. And that leads us to our discussion, recap, and response on episode 3 of season 2 of The Mandalorian, The Harris.
All right.
And Tracy, this is where you're picking up here.
Well, okay, so we would do our
synopsis first?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so quick synopsis. The Heiress, Chapter 11. This week continues the story thread from last week's episode. The Mando, the child, and Frog Lady and her precious eggs are limping along in a very beat-up Razor Crest, having just barely survived a crash landing on Maldo Kreese and an attack from a hive of Krithna spiders. Mando barely crash lands the Razor Crest onto the estuary moon of Trask at a port run by some Mon Calamari and Quarren sailors. Finishing his mission of reuniting the Frog Lady with her husband, Mando is directed to a tavern where other Mandalorians have been seen leading him to set sail for adventure, for more discovery, and maybe some treachery.
Dun dun dun.
So I gotta say, if you can't tell, I think we're all really excited by this episode. I had a blast with this. I really want to give a shout out to Bryce Dallas Howard, who did a fantastic job directing this. It's a short episode, but you don't feel it. It really just kind of leaves you wanting more. I really can't say enough about how well the action was staged in this. We're really actually kind of seeing. Okay, I'm not going to talk about that. I'll wait until spoilers. But the action is well staged. The pacing is really well done. There are some great comedic moments and some incredible puppet acting that I was very impressed with. Like, when there's literally an animatronic head talking to another animatronic head, and you're like, oh, this is a lovely love scene between two animatronic heads. So that's my quick review.
All right, so Tracy, you gonna roll us through the show?
Okay, is this the official spoiler warning? So if for some strange reason you haven't seen the episode, although I'm pretty sure if you're tuning into this, you probably have. This is where Andy breaks out his Kermit. Can you do a Kermit impression?
Hi-yo, this is Kermit the Frog.
The dude frog did look like Kermit.
He does look like Kermit.
Okay, but this is your spoiler warning. You've been warned. Okay? Speaking of the frog people, did they not... Okay, in Willow, when Willow and his wife Kaya are like reuniting and they run towards each other, their hug was exactly like the hug from Willow and his wife.
I also just you have to imagine in pre-production they're having to carefully choreograph this so that the two very expensive puppet heads don't smash and destroy themselves. So it's hobble and I can't see where I'm running, but it works.
Thank you for agreeing with me, Paul. Okay, so first of all, we've got the landing, right? Looks good, and then they plunge off the side. That was some good comedic relief. We've got them on Calamari shaking his head, oh man, these non-water people, right? And if you listen really, really closely, the sound of the engine failing is the same sound that they used for the Millennium Falcon, which, a little Indiana Jones throwback, is the sound of a biplane engine failing. So we got it. It's like that full circle thing that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni like to do.
Did you guys catch the audio cue callback as well? As the crest is like hurtling towards the landing pad, you get the same radar sound from the trench run as Mando says, "Almost there, almost there."
I didn't even catch that one. That's a pretty good one. Brought to you by the daughter of the director of Willow. Oh yeah, Ron Howard and Bryce Dallas Howard. Did Ron Howard direct Willow?
He did.
I forgot about that. I forgot that he was.
Wow, Jason.
Oh, there we go. Which kind of brings me to one of the reasons that I really loved The Mandalorian in general, but this episode, this episode specifically, is that they do such an excellent job of using really, really classic elements of different adventure genres. Like they do it in a way that is formulaic without being trite. Like, you know, they don't just pick a shot and do they do some really great spaghetti western with the ratio of sky to land, which is very, very formulaic western. They did a lot of different shots this time with like the seafaring voyage, which if you go into those kinds of movies, really, really classic. And so, which comes right back into the reunion from Willow, which is like another classic thing. They do such a good job.
And we have some more alien references in this one too, with the face huggers, right?
That is like my new favorite Baby Yoda moment. I'm just gonna say, it's just like the bewilderment on Baby Yoda is like.
Oh my gosh! I know I'm jumping ahead, but at the end where he's giggling, oh, it's so cute. Okay, and we've never. Sorry, go ahead.
I love his little teeth. How like little close-ups of him laughing, you can see his little sharp little frog-eating teeth.
Okay, so we've never seen a mama core before, right? This is a new alien.
I wasn't able to find anything else on it. I think it might be new.
I wonder if they called it a mama core because it was going to have a child inside of it.
Well, I mean, in theory, we see the baby core later. At the end of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
Did anybody else?
And then that comes full circle because he needs.
Oh, was that a baby core at the very, very end?
I mean, it looks like the same.
That's what I saw.
Same mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of figured it was another little squid critter, but I think you're right.
I just thought it was. I mean, it makes no sense, but they made it look a lot like a brittle star.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think are really fast moving and carnivorous.
Yeah.
But I so my brain was just like, you know, sea life nerd. I was, it's the alien brittle star. No, it probably was a baby core. As opposed to mama core. Baby core.
I think my mind was stuck on brittle star.
What does that dance look like? It's I don't know. Baby core.
Josh just putting this together. Did Yoda hide in a swamp because there were plenty of frogs to eat? Probably.
Snack bar.
Makes sense to me. Speaking of eating things, didn't it? That's jumping ahead. Okay, we'll get back to that. Okay, so Bo-Katan, she reaches down to rescue Din, kind of like the Death Watch did when he was a kid, right? Didn't that seem like it was kind of a direct throwback to that shot?
That's a total visual throwback to his flashback of being rescued. So, you know, he's got this whole connection to the Mandalorians because, you know, they rescued him, and now from the droid attack coming through, when the Mandalorian reached down for his hand, now all of a sudden another Mandalorian is reaching out for him. It's like, wow, this is, you know, he's touched by this again. So that whole referential throwback was great.
Which to me kind of solidified and made sense of why he was willing to work with them or work with them in any capacity after initially finding out that they're not a part of his sect. They're not a part of his group, and that they have different practices and different beliefs. And, you know, they show that at first, like, he's kind of like shocked and disgusted. So he literally just flies off. Right. And I do think that they did a really good job with that. His own flashback of having that emotional anchor to them of being reminded when Bo-Katan says to him, "This is the way," and he like pauses a second and says, "This is the way." You kind of tell he's supposed to be thinking back to that, where he's like, "Okay, I guess maybe not what I'm familiar with. This may make me very uncomfortable, but the way is pulling our asses out of the fire when we need it," and they've done that for me.
Can you imagine like finding out that you grew up in a cult and you didn't know?
Oh God.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's essentially what he's finding out. Like, I didn't grow up in a cult. What are you talking about? You're crazy.
So, so this is another thing that I really love about this episode is that we're seeing how this fits. This is a running theme in this season, right? As Din Djarin is once again challenged on what his perception of what it means to be a Mandalorian, right? We saw it with Cobb Vanth, where he, as soon as he takes the helmet off, he's like, "You're not a Mandalorian. Take it off." And as by the end of the episode, he's like, fought alongside him. He's ready to sacrifice himself for him, and we get that sense that he's kind of learning that to be a Mandalorian isn't the armor or the mask; it's the person inside it, right?
Yeah.
Well, so you would think it's the creed, right? And it's kind of a code of honor, but then that is challenged for him as well in this episode because she does change the terms of the deal. Yeah. So even though he sees her as being maybe other than but still Mandalorian to some degree, he's looking at her and he's like, so he's decided that he's going to trust her, and he goes on this mission with her, and then she changes. And she surprises him out of nowhere and says, "Oh, actually, we're going to do this. We're going to take the ship." And he's like, "Wait, what?" And she's like, "I'm changing it. Sorry." And that kind of scrambles his brain a little bit more. Don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely a great character, a continuing character arc for him as he's having to question everything he has known and accepted.
I just felt like that was such a weird, dishonorable thing for a Mandalorian to do, whether they're like a regular one or a cultist one. It just seemed odd to do that to another Mandalorian.
It seemed odd, but specifically with her character, I think any other Mandalorian character I would have been like, what? But specifically Bo-Katan, I'm like, yeah, that tracks. She do what she want. That's kind of been her whole. She makes the call she thinks she needs to, even if it's going to be one that is unpopular or difficult for her. I mean, she split off from her own sister, opposed her own sister. So pulling something, basically just throwing her weight around on a Mandalorian she just met. Yeah, I believe she'd do that. I mean, it caught me off. I believe it.
And brain capacity brings up a good point, is that her first "this is the way" seemed almost mocking of the creed, whereas the time she said it when they were leaving each other seemed more genuine.
Mm-hmm. I also kind of interesting, talking about watching a creed or a philosophy evolve, right? Is that we also see our first, correct me if I'm wrong, but we see our first male member of the Night Watch here. Right?
The Night Owls?
Did he have a symbol on his shoulder? I know the other two did. I can't verify that he actually had the symbol. He had the same color, but there was a symbol that was for the Night Owls.
I thought I saw it, but now that you're calling it out, I want to confirm that.
And he's a brand new character named Wax Woves. I don't even think they said his name. He barely spoke. So we'll probably find out more about him later, or if they do a spinoff.
We have actually seen that actor. I don't remember his name, but he was actually a minor character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
This was a totally Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Cameo full episode, because the two pilots were also from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And we had another Deadwood actor in Titus. Oh gosh, what's his name? Oh, wait, hold on, I have it written here. Titus. Starts with a W.
Welliver.
Welliver?
Welliver, yes, thank you. I know him from Bosch because my dad watches Bosch. But he was on Lost. He was the Man in Black on Lost, and he was also in Sons of Anarchy and Deadwood.
Yeah. So what's for me? I'm while I'm watching this, it's always interesting to see that you've got the Mandalorian, you've got the baby Yoda who's trying to get back to, or he's trying to get back to whatever his people are, and we're still trying to figure out whether his people means more Yoda or more Jedi. We're not completely sure, but most people are leaning toward Jedi. Anyway, I like that we're seeing all these different, I want to say, possibilities for the Mandalorian to kind of align with. And like Andy, you were saying, he's got to choose his own path and figure out what his identity is. And you've got all these Empire guys kind of just following along and getting closer and closer as they're, chasing down the dark saber and trying to get rid of these guys.
Yes, definitely. Well, and speaking of the Empire, we also have the first time we've seen Moff Gideon this season, right? And we see him in hologram form as he gives the stone cold order, order. He says, "Long live the Empire." Much to
Kill yourself.
Giancarlo Esposito is just I love the way he plays bad.
Yeah.
So good at bad.
It's
Andy, I feel like you're our hologram, by the way. You're like our show's hologram.
because I'm kind of glowy.
And you like come in and out of.
So as far as the story goes and where we are right now, we're this is a short episode, as we said before. We're 8 episodes in. I mean, we're going to go through 8 episodes, but we're 3 episodes in, and I'm kind of wondering what the turn is as we're going into this next bit, because with the 4th episode, usually the midpoint, you have kind of a, you've gone up the ramp of the show, and halfway through, it's like, oh, now we have a change, a bombshell, a turning point, and you start to do the roller coaster roll down, and everything speeds up to a climax. So I'm wondering what they're going to do with all of these different pieces. And I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on what we're doing, where we're going.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, we know Dave Filoni's directing the 5th episode, right? So there's a really good chance that, Ahsoka Tano is his baby. It's a character he created with George Lucas. So my guess is that this next episode is going to be where he meets back up with Cara Dune and Carl Weathers. Why am I blanking on his name?
Grief
Thank
Karga.
you. Yeah, I'm thinking. And do you guys ever watch Doctor Who? Am I the only Doctor Who fan here?
Watch Doctor Who.
Okay, you know how like he gets all these characters who kind of make comebacks into his world, like the Lizard Lady and her maid, and and all these characters.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the direction that the Mandalorian is going, is that he's collecting these people throughout the galaxy, and at some point he's gonna bring them all together to somehow get the child, like save the child or get the child to its final destination.
Now, real quick,
the other thing too, right?
Andy, hold up a second. You mentioned Ahsoka Tano. Now, we know who that is, but that's another character we might want to just spend a little bit of time kind of talking about, just so they know what we're dealing with.
I paused it when I was watching the new episode last night, and they dropped her name in there. I paused it and just like shrieked because she's my favorite. I've just been talking about like, oh man, I hope they throw her back in, and then they did it. I was like, yes.
So do you want to give us the quick who is Ahsoka Tano?
Ahsoka Tano is I know she had all of her Jedi training, but with her whole status with the Jedi Council, would she technically be considered a Jedi by them, or is she just a?
Well, okay, let's assume
even back before that.
Yeah.
What is she?
Who is she?
Her position
Why
and
is she
status.
important?
She was Anakin's Padawan.
There we go.
Anakin's Padawan, getting ahead of myself. And I don't remember right now if she ever was officially considered a Jedi Knight or if they stripped her of that title, but she basically ended up having, long story short, to cover a lot of ground, differences with the Jedi Council, how they ran things, and kind of ended up having to split off on her own. And they never really followed up with her, had the opportunity to follow up with her in the animated series. And I liked her because she was a really good middle ground between Anakin's doom spiral and the, holier than thou business of the Jedis. And I'm very excited to see what they do with her.
And of course, she went on to be very pivotal. Of course, I mean, being kind of by the end of the series of Clone Wars, she was the pivotal character, right? The Padawan to Anakin, who managed to not go down a dark path, but still go her own way, and of course
kind
became
of his moral compass, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was another interesting thing of how her leaving the Jedi Order, it kind of affects Anakin, leading to what we see in Revenge of the Sith. But,
and she left to help Bo-Katan.
Correct. If you watched season 7, that came out at the beginning of this year, she's also very pivotal there. And then she shows up in Rebels, as we find out, is very pivotal to those characters as well. So,
so a lot goes on between, a little bit during and between episodes, Star Wars, I mean, the main major movies, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, as Andy mentioned. So in between those, there was a lot of warring going on, a lot of fighting, a lot of things happened. If you remember from the movies, when we start out in, Revenge of the Sith, you see Anakin looking very different than he did before. And a lot of the things that transpired is why. And Ahsoka Tano was very instrumental to that. So
really quickly,
they dropped her.
Oh, go ahead. Finish. I was
just saying, when they dropped her name, as being, involved in this storyline and with Bo-Katan directly, that was another breadcrumb out to the people that, hey, this is about to ramp up and we're going to get more things coming.
Just answering Ring Capacity's question, how long after the original trilogy is this set? I believe they're saying this is about 5 years after.
I keep saying 9 years.
9 years?
Yeah, I keep saying like 9 years.
Yeah.
Oh, Rodney steps in.
We'll have to.
It might be 9 years after Battle of Yavin, perhaps.
Oh, you're right.
But yes, as I understand, 5 years. So in the timeline, this would be around the same time that Luke is starting to build his Jedi Academy. But I don't think we're going to see Luke in this. I think, and I don't want to see Luke, right? I mean, I kind of want to see where this it's a big galaxy. There's a lot of galaxy to go around.
I want to see him just like in a shroud.
Or a hollow Luke.
Just for like a hot second. Just to like throw it there.
Yeah. Just to have some kind of hollow message from him or something like that, where you like, oh, hey, Mark Hamill, what up? Like,
I mean, it's true. We don't have any confirmation of whether or not Ahsoka and Luke ever met either. So that is still out there for them to decide if they want to address in a book, in a novel, in a comic book, down the line.
At this point, Luke has his powers. He's a full Jedi at this point.
Yeah.
And in theory, because Ahsoka Tano is no longer technically a Jedi, in theory, he would be the most powerful Jedi and the most influential Jedi in the galaxy. So it makes sense that at some point they would seek him out.
Luke's always hiding, man.
Well,
he's not hiding yet, though. but
also depending on what Ahsoka sees as her role in the galaxy right now, right? I mean, there's a very important arc, an interesting arc that kind of gets into the mythology of the Force in Clone Wars called the Mortis arc. That's definitely another deep dive worth getting into, and it gets into really esoteric mythology stuff. But Ahsoka, I think, is now very linked to the Mortis gods of the Force, and she might feel that she is not to directly intervene in things now because of her experiences. That's my take on it, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So, okay, jumping gears a little bit, I have to ask, this has kind of been bubbling around the internet a little bit. What are we to think of this carnivorous baby Yoda that's disturbing some people and it's making other people chuckle? I don't know your guys' take on it. I personally think he's a little disturbing, but I'm digging it because I'm a disturbed guy, and I don't know. I kind of think it's funny, but
Cover his little ears.
Oh. I mean, have any of you heard this? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have not heard anything about him being disturbing, but Ring Capacity says it's adorably disturbing. I would say it's adorably disturbing. I like that.
I mean, go ahead.
Because I agree with the adorably disturbing thing, because the thing about babies, toddlers, is that like they don't care about social norms yet. Like they don't they just see what they want, and some, you know what I mean? Like he's like any other toddler. He sees what he wants and he's like mouth.
Yes.
Except he's like a carnivorous alien toddler, so sometimes that's going to be like Spawn.
Now, to be fair, yes, they're like the last of their line and whatnot. But to be fair, we know those eggs were not fertilized yet. So
yeah.
So they were just little frog placentas. You know.
I'm just really bummed that my theory from last week about him saving the eggs was wrong. I'm really sad that my theory.
So we didn't see him eat any man. I was trying to think of a clean way to say this. Any man-affected eggs, which would which is, the internets are weird. I was in the comments all over the internet wondering what people were thinking of the show, and that came up actually multiple times. So. The reason I thought it was a little disturbing is only because, he went on this whole mission to, save this lady and, her whole family line. And then they just kind of played it off as funny, hey, don't eat that or put that down. And, well, it doesn't really matter. I've gotten as far as I need to. I'm going to let you stay with these people and, just behave yourself.
Oh, she was on to Baby Yoda by that point.
Was she?
Oh, yeah.
She was watching. She was
supervised him after that.
You see her clutching that egg, the lava lamp of eggs.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, the other thing too, right? Like that was kind of there was a definite theme of parenting in that episode, right? I mean, we're seeing kind of the contrast of Frog Lady, who's very vested in her children and her offspring, versus the Mando, who's like single father insta family, and like really doesn't know what he's doing. He's bringing his child into like bar fights and I mean, Baby Yoda doesn't have a lot of really good examples of right and wrong happening yet. So,
which is actually, I think, kind of reflected in him eating the eggs. Mm-hmm. All he's seen is moral ambiguity. His whole 50 years of existence, 50.
Well, yeah, I mean, he did do the force choke, and everybody was like, "Whoa, I didn't expect that." So it's interesting to me. I'm looking forward to more of that.
I do too, because I think that there's this impulse, because we've only ever seen Yoda and Yaddle to see, who are very, very old, to see that species as inherently good and kind. And I think that's something that fans are putting on the species itself, where we have this expectation, oh, he's a force user, he's a baby, he's the same species as Yoda and Yaddle. Of course he's going to be a little sweetheart. Of course he's,
And Yaddle, it's a blink if you missed it kind of thing. Yaddle was in, what was it, Phantom Menace, where they were talking with
In the
Anakin.
Senate.
Yeah, not the Senate, the Jedi Council, right? Yeah,
Right.
Jedi Council.
Jedi
The
Council.
Jedi Council was sitting around, talking about Anakin, and another Yoda species character was sitting down. A young female, not young, a female Yoda species. Her name was Yaddle, so that's who she's talking about.
Yeah,
Which is
that
why
was
it's not
about
incorrect.
50 years ago.
Oh gosh!
Oh, but that's why it's not incorrect to say Baby Yoda, is because we only know it as Yoda's species, and he is a Baby Yoda species, right?
Mm.
Or he could be a Baby Yaddle species. I'm
Sometimes
saying.
in my head,
No, they call it Yoda species.
Okay.
They do.
I call it Yiddle because it's Yoda Yaddle Yiddle.
Aww, and he's little.
As
Aw.
we work our way through the vowels, right?
Baby Yiddle.
But he's not only treated like a child, but he is in a way treated like a pet, because Din doesn't know really what he is, only that he has some kind of power, and in some way, later he learns that he needs to get him to the Jedi. So when he makes the joke about, look, no, I have enough pets, we can't keep one of the tadpoles, I laughed because that also kind of explains the child's behavior a little bit. Like he kind of, he's treating him like a child, but also a pet.
I also found that interesting in that, like, it seems like Din Djarin is kind of a language savant, right? I mean,
Except with Frog.
He seems to kind of understand a frog guy by the end of their journey, right? I mean, it's impressive.
I wonder if that has something to do with the fact, going back, touching on the Mandalorian lore, which is that Mandalorians are more of a culture and less of a specific genetic race. That they probably have a lot of languages around, and if you grow up in an area where you are hearing a lot of languages, or you learn a lot of languages, you can pick them up quicker when you're older.
Well, just Tatooine has several languages.
Poodoo. I guess the other thing that people were excited to see, that I was excited to see, was the calamari and the Kanan, these two symbiotic fish water people that always seem to end up on planets together. They the Kanan, is it Kanan? What is it, Andy?
The which? Oh, the Quarren.
Corn. Yeah, I'm totally out. Oh, that's somebody else. Yeah, the Davy Jones tentacle face people. And we know the Mon Calamari from Admiral Akbar, pretty much.
Because, of course, it's a trap.
Dude, I was so happy. I was like, wait a minute. You can't tell me we're going to go into this calamari area and planet, and we're not going to have a trap going on. So when they were setting up the pit, I was just like, oh, God, it's a trap. I wonder if they're actually say it or they're just going to do it.
The deal when he said, when he asked him for passage, and he said that very ambiguous, if you know how to read a script, it'll cost you. Doesn't say how much money, just says it'll cost you. Almost every time when they're saying credits, they go, oh, this many credits, this many whatever, right? That'll cost you. I'm like, it's a trap.
Actually, another callback right there. We get to see the calamari flan again, that he was paid in for his first bounty when in episode 1 of season 1.
Yeah, it made that little. I love the little squishy noise their money makes. It's just waterproof money. I mean, just makes squishy noises.
It's all in the details.
Yeah,
It hurts my little obsessive compulsive heart to think of like slimy money.
What does the wallet even look like? Like, what do you?
I mean, well, Davy Jones would just keep stuff in his tentacles here, right?
Now, the Mon Calamari and the Quarren, they have always kind of been on opposing sides, right? The Quarren always seem to be on the losing side. The Mon Calamari always tend to be on the right side. But no matter what, they always seem to be fighting each other. And that's a big part of the animated series. Right?
Maybe we'll see. Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see Kit Fisto again too. Oh wait. The Kit Fisto species. That was the green cut eye with the big reddish burgundy eyes and the
poor
tentacles.
Kit Fisto.
Yeah. I want to see more out of him. We did see him in the Genndy Tartakovsky animated series. That was the, the Powerpuff Girls, Samurai Jack animated style series. That was short-lived, but very good.
So
anyway, I think
before we
got,
move on.
Okay, go on.
Before we move on from Mandalorian entirely, I just want to what do you guys think? Where do you think we're going? What do you think we're going to see in the next episode?
I think it's going to be another kind of transition episode, like hey, you need to help me, and then I'll help you before he can get to Ahsoka Tano.
I do think they're going to tease us. I don't think we're going to get Ahsoka yet, as much as I would like to. I don't think we're going to quite get that payoff yet.
Yeah, I'm expecting they're going to hold off on Ahsoka just yet. This is even as short as it is, this is pretty much a slow burn type of storytelling they're doing, where they're technically not doing that much. And, much of the show has been called filler because, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't directly deal with the story as in the grand scheme of things. Like, the Boba Fett thing, just kind of whatever. The whole thing with Moff Gideon. I mean, he showed up on a teleprompter, a little hologram today. So that's a little more, but yeah, they're probably going to hold off on Ahsoka till maybe the last 2 or 3 episodes.
I personally, I think I'm expecting a big presence from Moff Gideon next week. For 2 reasons, right? One, that we just introduced him in a scary hologram where he tells Imperials to kill themselves, much like we saw Darth Vader and the Emperor do in Empire Strikes Back. And also, we've seen the tendency where we've basically just almost completely burned through all the trailer footage, right? So the only footage in the trailers left are the footage that we've seen of the team gotten back together and running from being chased by Imperials on speeder bikes, right? All the other footage is used, which means from episode 5 to the end, we have no idea where they're going or what they're going to do, which is a great way to tease that out.
Like that.
Yeah.
They totally like it like that. They're surprising us, and they're even throwing curveballs in the trailers. We all thought that Sasha Banks, real name Mercedes Bernardo, we thought that she was going to be a Jedi because she had the cloak and everything. We're like, oh, man, what's this going to be about? The Jedi are coming in. Psych. No,
or Sabine Wren, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? That was the perfect subterfuge, right? Where we got so focused on Sasha Banks being in this episode, we didn't even think about a Bo-Katan showing up in full force.
Did you guys know that she's Snoop Dogg's cousin?
Yeah. Yeah, she's awesome. Talk about badass ladies.
All right, so I think we're definitely still in a good spot. This was the great little conversation, a great episode. Definitely, it's got me excited, and I think it definitely got you guys excited too. So one thing we do want to remind everybody, definitely keep in contact with us online. Instagram at Pod Squadron, Twitter at Pod Squadron, Facebook at Pod Squadron. You'll be able to find us, and as I said, we post our Twitch announcements, letting you know when we're going to show up on Twitch and do the live streaming, so you can catch us every week. And we do have one quick question I want to respond to from Donnie Cornwell, off of one of our Facebook groups here. He asked, and this will be a real quick little something, personal and trivial question: what's your favorite Star Wars sound effect? So,
pew,
I'll give you a second.
Pew, pew, pew.
Tracy, with the pew pew, that's it?
Yeah. Pew, pew, pew. Oh, or lightsaber.
I'm appreciating the audio aids.
Yeah, there was a question of whether pew pew actually came from Star Wars. Did everybody decide to start saying pew pew because of Star Wars or not? I don't know.
Okay, so I was raised by a Foley artist, and they're the ones who, in post-production, recreate sounds, right? So like footsteps, animal things, all those things. And my favorite thing in the whole studio, and we're talking thousands upon thousands upon thousands of props that can be used for sound effects, was this thing called like a boomstick. And when you
This is
moved
my
it,
boomstick.
it sounded like it sounded like a lightsaber. It made that like this weird sound that kind of sounded, and it sounded like a lightsaber. And I don't know if that was an inspiration because those have been around for forever or what.
I'll take that.
I digress.
Lexi, favorite sound?
Probably the TIE fighters, to be honest.
Oh yeah,
Those, good one, good one.
it's a very good one. The aggressive scream of the ship.
I think I remember hearing that the sound for the TIE fighters when they were trying to come up with it, it actually was intended for something else. They didn't intend to use it for a ship, and then they listened to it and went, wait a minute, and ended up using it for a TIE fighter.
Yep. Andy?
Okay, this is very specific. So in Return of the Jedi, during the speeder bike chase, at some point Luke Skywalker knocks a trooper off of his bike. He flies off. He hits a tree, and for a hot second, you hear psst, like there's like air escaping out of his tight like airlocked uniform. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
Jump in really quick because I just did a really quick Google because I was trying to remember what it was that they made the TIE fighter sound out of, because I remember that being part of the reason why I liked it. They took a screaming elephant and combined it with the whoosh of a car on wet pavement.
Nice.
Nice.
So that's how
Okay,
they
and
made the TIE fighter. And I remember reading that and going, what?
And Jason's saying that the pew came from a wrench hitting a high tension steel guide wire on an antenna tower.
Yes, I had heard that too. Yeah. Awesome. Man, I like the fact that we have that archive there. Mine is the Jawa's Utini. Every time I hear Utini, I just freak out. I love that noise. Their little yell sound. It's great. Cool.
Oh, I have one thing. So is Dank Ferric, is that like the new Frack or Goramit?
It appears to be. I mean, we had what three dank ferrets in this episode.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like that's the Jawa cursing. So that's why that reminded me of that.
Did Cobb Vanth also say it as well, or?
I don't think so.
I don't remember.
Not that I remember.
All right. Well, that is about to wrap us up for this week. We definitely appreciate everybody tuning in, checking us out. Make sure that you follow along once again. And really quickly, let us know where we can find you all. Andy?
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and pretty much everything as Chinese Pirate _.
All right. Tracy?
Facebook at Hot Nerd Girl, Twitter, Hot _Nerd _Girl, and Instagram at Hot Nerd Girl Official.
All right. Lexi?
I'm kind of undercover in this as with all things. I'm on Instagram as Ms. Lexifer, MSLEXIFER, and that has a lot of my random adventures on it.
That's
And
a
of course
great
you
name
can-
for an Instagram.
And of course, you can follow the Pod Squadron on all our platforms. Once again, we will release a watch list of everything to cover The Mandalorian.
Benja.
I don't know. Andy just took over there for a second, so
I was
You
just
can find
inserting.
me.
I'm
you can find me
inserting.
at that's for the last. You can find me at MrBenja.com. Now go ahead and take us out, Andy, since you want to go ahead and take us out, Andy. MrBenja.com. Andy's taking us out. Go.
It's because you always freeze about this time.
That's true. This is the. Yeah. So once again, check out all of our social media. We'll go ahead and release a watch list for you of essential episodes of Clone Wars and Rebels to catch up on the whole Mandalorian history. And once again, remember, am I saying it or are you saying it?
All right, go ahead. It's yours.
Did I just feel bad?
All right.
You should.
So please check out and check out our content on Pod Squadron, as you heard, for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and always look out for us on Twitch. And we do have podsquadron.com, which is going to be updated a little sooner than later. But remember, the truths that we cling to depend on our point of view. Only the Sith deal in absolutes. And that has been our time for this show. We are the Pod Squadron, and we thank you. Be sure to check us out more later. Goodbye.
See you next week.